Hoi! New World Update 4.04 is coming out today, and this actually comes with some changes that were not announced beforehand. So there's some things that are interesting, especially for PvPers, which is good news because I was kind of worried that we're not getting anything at all in this patch, but there's at least a tiny bit. So the patch is coming at 5 AM PT on February 7, and the main quote-unquote features are of course the new mini-event as well as the group finder. Then a month from now we should see a major patch, so hopefully the next PTR shouldn't be too far away either. Talked about the new group finder yesterday, so we're not going to do that again. But we also have some new skins here that I wanted to show you real quick. One kind of slight Assassin's Creed vibes, I would almost say, but only a little bit from the front. Not the biggest fan of that one, but this one I really like. I really like the helmet on this, so that might be worth taking a look at if you are spending on New World at the moment anyways. And we have the armored mounts here as well, so those look pretty cool. Just a couple new skins. We also have our winners for the winter fashion event, which you can see here. Pretty cool looking outfits. But of course, the things that interest me more personally are the direct changes, beginning with the combat changes here. Fix an issue that caused players to not properly get contribution, including loot bags for killing enemies while in a group. I think this has been a long-standing frustration factor for a lot of players, especially if you're, for example, not using ranged weapons. This can be very annoying, so I am very glad that they are fixing this. What this exactly means for raid groups is another question, but at least, you know, they are focusing the main part here. I think this is going to be especially relevant for open world stuff. Next, we have fixed an issue that caused defensive formation to remain active while sprinting. That, of course, shouldn't be the case. It's extremely strong that way. But then we have the real big one that I think at least some people will care about, a buff to Outpost Rush powder kegs. The cost is reduced from 100 Azoth to 50 Azoth, and the health is doubled from 15k to 30k. Now, do I think that's enough? Probably not. Realistically, I think even with 30k health, there are too many situations where those can be destroyed fairly easily, and they're still fairly expensive, all things considered, and it is just very easy in comparison to keep up a door, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. It definitely is them acknowledging that there is an issue with doorPR, so I think this is good. And maybe if this is not enough, then at least in the future we'll see more changes. Maybe they will actually nerf doors or door repairs. We know that they nowadays want to do these smaller changes in between and see how they work. So I could imagine that this is what they're doing for now. And then 1 or 2 patches down the line, they might look at this again and say, okay, that did not have the effect that we wanted, so we're going to work on this further. So overall, again, I think this is a good change, and with OPR for many players basically being the only PvP mode that they can currently play properly, that's still available, I think this is kind of a pretty relevant thing for a lot of people, more than it may seem, even though it's just a minor change. 2 kegs here. I'm glad that they're doing this for everyone who's currently playing. Pestilence is getting another nerf. I'm somewhat surprised. I would have expected rather a nerf to Blunderbuss directly, but I guess they still see Pestilence overperforming. It already got nerfs in form of the anti-heal reduction, and now they're increasing the cooldown between activations from 0.5 seconds to 1 second, and updated the tooltip to clarify that there is a cooldown. Now, since we didn't really have this number beforehand, unless you dig deep into the files, I don't think this is something that people will particularly care about or rather notice that much. They could have done this change without us ever really knowing, because they didn't really clarify that there was a cooldown beforehand. So in many situations you're not applying multiple hits quickly enough for this to matter, but sometimes you will, and it will definitely matter for the speed of dot application especially. So it is a relevant change, but I don't think it's gigantic, because usually the first 2 procs or so are probably what matters the most, and those will probably still happen most of the time. So there are situations where this will nerf Pestilence, absolutely, no doubt about that. I just don't think it's like super dramatic. It just takes a little bit longer to stack, but most engages in New World are not over quickly enough for that to really make a huge difference, depending of course, but that's my personal take here, and we'll see. I think their goal here would be to make not all too big adjustments anyways, just a minor tweak to maybe turn it down a notch and not drastically. Next we have the expeditions. They added a flag to track if a player was kicked from their group, so that a kicked player doesn't get the leaver penalty because he got kicked and didn't leave. The leaver penalty applies when closing out of the client or the connection times out. They fixed the respawn point filtering for Outpost Rush and Expeditions. I'm not entirely sure what respawn point filtering this is referring to here. I'm not aware of any of the systems, but maybe someone in the comments will know. Respawn shrines are now available in Crossworld Expeditions. Expeditions counts are now consumed for Crossworld Expeditions. Revive counts are now enforced in Crossworld Expeditions, which was apparently an issue that was not tracking properly beforehand, and sometimes you can kind of get a higher score than you intended to with the revive counts. And the added a elapsed time in Expedition to control when a deserter penalty applies after X time. The number of mutated expeditions will be increased to 3 per week, something that people have been asking for a very long time. Every mutation rotation that follows this update will have a set of 3 mutated expeditions. Please note there will be an interruption to the mutation schedule for this upcoming rotation. Mutations will rotate on the 6th of the 2nd at 11 PM PST per usual schedule, but then there will be another rotation on the 7th of the 2nd that'll change the mutations again. They have announced that the mutations we had previously were Depth and Savage Divide, and what will change to on the 7th is Tempest Heart with Overgrown, Oppressive, and Censored, Glacial Tarn with Eternal, Indomitable, and Desiccated, and the Ennead with Hellfire, Savage, and Fiendish. So, yeah, pretty decent selection, pretty good start there, I would say. Unfortunate for anyone who wanted to do Depth or Savage Divide right now. We got some fixes too. All seasonal event quests will be appropriately removed outside of the event, so you'll not have the summer event and stuff like that. Fix an issue with 3 quest rewards characters appeared as generic NPCs instead of their unique appearances. Fix an issue that prevented players from entering the Sandroom Elite trial remotely through the map or activities UI. I'm glad that is finally done, which was kind of annoying. Fix an issue that caused cross-world expeditions to not display on the expedition map. Fix an issue that caused Outpost Rush matches to start with only backfilled players. And fixed an issue with element positioning for soul trials. They also fixed an issue that allowed players without Rise of the Angry Earth to receive unusable loot above 625 gear score. One thing that they're mentioning here as well is they fixed an issue that caused the Frigid Dawn armor to not appear as material replica recipe at the gypsum kiln. So I'm thinking that this is a separate one from the first one. The first one was it not being upgradable, and as far as I understand it, the replica change is new, it's separate. It's, I think, not been done yet, so you can actually craft it with the replica from the expedition too. So it should finally be fully usable, fully craftable and upgradable and everything, so it should be good. We've got a lot of known issues listed this time too. Players in pre-made groups disband after abandoning or completing an expedition. Role selection does support the Lost Stopwatch artifact to qualify for the tank role, but the UI only mentions Carnelian gems. So this is weird because on PTR at least I think it was tested and somebody was trying to queue with Lost Stopwatch and it didn't allow them to. But yeah, not sure what's going on there. Apparently you should be able to, at least from what it sounds like here, and just doesn't display it properly. There's an issue when you kick someone that the roll counter does not update properly, and in order to fix that, the other players need to, or any of the other players need to revisit the role selection screen, and then the group size will update and will proceed as expected. Soul Trial entrances can sometimes show both lobby and matchmaking elements. There's no workaround needed, just click the button and proceed to the entrance screen. Trying to change your role while in a cross-world match does not give a reason why it fails to update. When queuing for Outpost Rush or Arena, the global leave queue button is missing from the updated UI. That's kind of annoying. You can leave that through the main queue status HUD in the top right, or from the specific Outpost Rush and Arena screens. After playing an Outpost Rush match, the Expedition queue HUD can briefly show Outpost Rush match sizes before the first player accepts the invite. So again, definitely not a massive patch, but some notable changes that are relevant enough, I would say. Of course, we are mainly waiting for the next season now, hoping that we get some more info about that soon, because we know that, for example, the cooking changes are coming, so that sounds pretty interesting. And in the meantime, there are a few other interesting games coming out as well, so at least we got that for February. And once we know more about any of this, I will of course let you know, so consider subscribing and clicking the bell if you want to get notified. If you'd like to support me further and get early trading tips, then you can do so on Patreon. Thanks to my patrons who already do exactly that, and thank you for watching. SLOTH out.